Now, is there anybody in the audience who has ever had an idea about starting a business that has to do with making something? Let's say candles, let's say soap, let's say beauty bars, let's say juice. You want to bake. I see a lot of you have had that idea. And so I'm excited to share with you today that we have a scientist. Well, she's a multi-dimensional scientist, and she's also an entrepreneur. Bracelets, not brackets. Okay, no problem. She's also an entrepreneur, and she is excited to share with you today. So we have Dr. Charah Watson. She's the executive director at the Scientific Research Council. She's a natural products chemist, a product development specialist, and an entrepreneur. She is an innovator as well as an entrepreneur, as I said before. Currently, she is the executive director at the Scientific Research Council, and this is Jamaica's principal agency, which is responsible for the fostering and coordination of scientific research and the promotion and application of its status, of its results. I'm getting ahead of myself. So Dr. Watson also owns a health and wellness company called Charah Cosmetics, and she specializes in natural hair and skincare products developed to enhance your natural beauty. In 2012, Dr. Watson was named the SRC Young Scientist or Technologist of the Year and has been a part of teams that have won Jamaica's National Innovations Awards on 3 occasions. So guys, you know what I mean? She knows what she's talking about, right? In 2017, she received prestigious recognition from the U.S. State Department as one of the change makers in Latin America and the Caribbean, and was awarded a Young Leader of the Americas Fellowship. Dr. Watson received her doctorate in chemistry and bachelor's degree in food chemistry and pure and applied chemistry from the University of the West Indies, Mona. She also holds a postgrad diploma in government and public innovation from the Development Bank of Latin America and the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill, as well as an executive MBA from Formato Business School in Spain. You guys can understand that she's going to be here to tell us all the good stuff, right? She is a scientist who promotes the development of Jamaica through the utilization of science, technology, and innovation. She is here to share with us today. She's going to be talking about STEM and entrepreneurship. So while I allow Dr. Watson to set up her screen, we just want to have you guys go off in the chat. I see somebody saying that they're interested in skincare. Yes, a STEM girly. Yes, she is. Skincare. Totally is a STEM girly. So all the STEM girlies and boys, you can definitely check in with this conversation now. So it is over to you, Dr. Watson. And guys, remember you have to cheer her on because she can't really see you. So fire everything in the chat. Let's go.
All right. Thank you so much, Shana, for the introduction. Next time I'll make sure I make it look shorter so you don't take up too much time. But I am so happy to be here. This is one of the things that I really look forward to doing, where I get the opportunity to share my experiences with other persons, especially those that might be just a few years younger than I am. Because there is value in shared experiences. There value in, just learning from others. So I'm very grateful to the JN team for putting together this summer camp and for inviting me to share my experiences. So let me start off by apologizing and saying, I am a scientist, and as scientists, when I invite scientists to talk, try know a presentation is going to come. And because we're also in the virtual realm, and I want to ensure that I keep you fully engaged, I have a presentation to help guide the conversation along. Because the other thing too, we like talk, and we'll talk and go off script. So again, my presentation is to ensure that I stay on script and that some of the points that I thought about raising with you guys, I duly do that, and the presentation will help me do that. All right, so bear with me. So I'm going to share my presentation. On the like my flag, today is Jamaica Day at work. And the SRC colors, of course, represent Jamaica perfectly. And I also have my little flag to, kind of get into the vibe. So let me get my presentation up. And hopefully it don't distract me too much and I can still stay engaged. can you see my screen? Yes. All right.
Yes,
So the
Miss.
screen is showing. All right. So today we're going to talk about, I'm going to share my experiences as a scientist for one, and one that was brave enough to embark on this journey of entrepreneurship. I will tell you how I get to that point, but I will start off by sharing how I became a scientist, knowing what the audience is, and that some of you might be even thinking about going along that path. So the presentation is titled The Beauty in Chemistry, because chemistry, in my humble opinion, is that centralized science, is the main science that bring this whole thing together. I remember in third form when I was first introduced to chemistry, and the first principle that they taught us is that matter cannot be destroyed, but can merely be transformed into from one form into another. And in my brain, the kind of brain that I had, that told me that if I learn how to transform matter and manipulate it, it means that I can become that alchemist, I can become that magician, I can become that person that can basically create things, or create within the appreciation that you're creating based on what already exists. And chemistry is the study of matter, that and transforming matter from one thing to another. So from that perspective, chemistry excited me from I was in high school and from I was first introduced to it. So like many persons back in my time, we only knew a very few career. A scientist was not one on the radar. But when I learned about chemistry and what it really does, transforming matter and creating new things from what already existed, I was intrigued, and the rest was history for me. But how did I become the scientist that is before you today? Now, I went to the Excelsior High School, not an Andrews girl, period. I'm an Excelsorian, Aggie Animal, the real Aggie. And from Excelsior High School, I went to Exed Community College, because at the time that I went to Exed, hopefully I'm not aging myself too much, we did not have a sixth form. We had the community college, so that's where I went. So I went to Exed, and then from Exed, I went to the University of the West Indies, where I did a bachelor's degree in food chemistry and pure and applied chemistry. From there, I then matriculated into the MPhil program, which later was upgraded. I upgraded to a PhD, and I did my PhD in, funny enough, it's my degree will say chemistry on it, but the project, which I will tell you a little bit about, had very, in my opinion, had very little chemistry in there. I consider myself more entomologist, a um insectologists, and everything else, but it seemed as if my work had very little chemistry, because I was doing a lot of work on pest control and pest management. So I had to learn a lot of new things at that stage. So currently, I am the executive director of the Scientific Research Council, as was mentioned. And when someone asks me, what do I do? What am I? These are some of the things that I would say. I'm a research scientist, a researcher to the core, even though my day-to-day job at the SRC is very administrative. It almost never takes me into the lab unless I'm doing a tour, showing somebody around. I'm hoping to land a new grant or some new partnership. I'm not in the lab doing bench work at the SRC anymore. So my role here is extremely administrative. I'm a natural product chemist. As you can tell, I'm really into natural stuff. My father's a Rastafarian, so from my upbringing, that was always there, being respectful of nature, being respectful for what it is that we've been blessed with, and just learning to work with what we have, to advance and enhance our lives. That's really to the core of what I believe and why I became a chemist, really. A product development specialist. I'm always creating new things, whether it be I'm in my lab at home, I'm working on a new formula formulation for skincare. Now that I'm getting a little bit more mature, I want to ensure I don't have too many wrinkles. I might be working on something for my hair since I like this light color and I want to ensure my hair is not breaking. I'm developing products to ensure that my hair can manage the treatments that I'm giving it to lighten the color of it, all of those kind of things. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm also a JP because public service is something that is very important to me, and I'm a Rotarian. So if you have a Rotary Club at a school, you should consider joining. I always recommend or encourage person to participate in social club. So to become a scientist, I call it the road less trod, and there's a reason for that. The sciences can be challenging. I won't say it's hard, but it can be challenging, and it's not necessarily what most will consider to be the easier way. But if you're a kind of person who is strategic and that likes to plan and like having a target to work towards, science, a career in STEM or becoming a scientist could be very well up your stream. If you're someone that likes to answer questions, that is very curious and don't just stop at just being curious, but also want to explore what that curiosity could lead to, chances are there's a budding scientist or STEM practitioner somewhere in you. I already mentioned what my academic progress have been from high school all the way through to university. I actually have a PhD in chemistry where my research looked at the control of citrus pests, that beautiful swallowtail butterfly that you see there. As beautiful as they are, they can be quite problematic at times. And therefore, my work at that time look at natural methods of controlling citrus pests that did not harm them and was not harmful to the environment. So what we did was to look at what their natural breeding habits were, what was attracting them to citrus, and was able to use that attractant, identify what was attracting them to citrus first and foremost, and was able to now enhance that particular feature in another plant and diverted these pests from going to citrus onto the other plant, and therefore controlling their feeding on citrus, controlling their devastating impact on citrus by using a natural method. And just to say, and to give homage to my research supervisor, Dr. Trevor Yee, who passed away last year, sadly, this research and the outcome from it really was sparked from him doing a casual walk on a Sunday afternoon in his neighborhood and seeing the larvae of this butterfly feeding on another plant that was not citrus. And from seeing that, it's like, that is strange. This is not supposed to happen. Pests tend to be very, very specific in what kind of host they feed on and what host they lay on. So to see this well-known citrus pest feeding on something that wasn't citrus, that sparked a curiosity. And from that curiosity, we went and did the research work and was able to identify why it is that they were feeding on that alternative plant, was able to enhance that property and divert the feeding from citrus. Coming from that, we receive a lot of both national and international recognitions. And again, to entice you to become a scientist or become a STEM practitioner or to pursue a career in STEM, through my research work back then as a student, as a PhD student, and now when I decided to start in my company later on, which I did while I was in graduate school. I think I started developing the formulations in 2010 because at the time I was struggling with dandruff. I had natural hair at the time. Well, I had processed hair at the time and had severe dandruff, the worst dandruff you could think of. So I was a little bit reserved, a little bit shy. And doing the work on the citrus pest and learning about essential oils and seeing all the wonderful things that essential oils could do, learning that they had significant activity for skin, hair, nails. I was like, wait, what if I try to develop something to help me with my dandruff? And that's what I did and end up starting the company. But just to say, coming out of the research project, I was able to travel to Brazil, to the US, to Mexico, Panama, Cuba, all over, coming from a research work. Then as a entrepreneur with the company, I'm participating in the Young Leadership of America initiative with Randy McLaren. We met on that fellowship. I have a photo later on to show that I do know the Randy Mac. We were able to explore and really use your work to take you all over. So a lot of us have visions and hopes of traveling. Traveling is extremely expensive. But having a career that actually allows you to see the world is one of the great advantages of going into STEM. So yes, I am extremely prejudiced towards STEM career. And throughout my conversation with you today, I will be dropping little things to encourage you to participate in a career in STEM. And later on, when I'm wrapping up, I'll tell you why I want you guys or more persons to really be interested in STEM career and to participate. My slide froze. All right, so typical career transition, what does it look like? For some of you might be actually interning at your parents' workplace or being able to acquire internship independently on your own. Some of you will then move on from internship to become a staff somewhere, starting probably at the initial phase, and will work yourself up to senior and even become manager, senior manager, and ultimately could become a partner or the CEO of a company through your natural career path. This is the typical career path for many. But for most of us, for a lot of other persons, it looked very different. For me, it looked extremely different. It was more filled with winding roads that led me to different things. And at my age, I think I was born in 1983. I still can't say out loud how old I am, but I was born in 1983. At my age, I think I've gone through at least 3 careers. So, and I say that to say, you can start somewhere, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's where you'll end. And also allow yourself the freedom to explore different things that interest you. Not not having it all figured out at a particular moment don't mean that you won't be successful, don't mean that you won't enjoy life. It means that you are still curious and you're still exploring. And through those exploration, you'll get to that point, which is hopefully self-fulfillment and happiness, which is what we all achieve, what we're all striving for at least. When you ask someone what it is that you really want, it's not to be successful, it's not to have a particular career, it's ultimately to feel fulfilled, to be able to take care of your basic needs, to be able to have a little bit more than the basic needs, and to be happy. And to get there, usually is through means of a career or other things. But the ultimate goal is to self-actualize, self-realization, fulfillment and happiness. And you get that through different means. And it will look different for many persons. Your road won't look like mine. It might look very different. It might be simpler, it might be more complex. But ultimately, you want to ensure that you get to the point you want to get to, which ultimately should be some amount of happiness. So, what did my career journey look like? So I was a teacher for a few years. I taught chemistry on a part-time basis at the Tivoli Gardens High School. I spent 5 years there. I did private tutoring as well. I did marketing, promotions, and sales. So I used to be in the supermarket promoting jams and different products. I'll be at different events. You know those promotional girls that you see now at the parties? I used to be one of those as well. I did that for many years while I supported myself going to grad school. While I was in grad school, as I mentioned earlier, I started developing and formulating products to help with my hair and to deal with my acne issues that I had. And I started Charah Cosmetics then. Um, when I finished graduate school, I continued in my business. But of course, like most businesses, you need starting up capital, not being able to access loans or being interested in loans. So you have interest and you have whether or not you can access. I had neither of the two. I couldn't access it because I had no collateral, nor did I really have any interest in accessing loans. I decided that, to really boost and push my desire in this business, I will need to get a job. So I started working with Biotech R&D Institute as a research scientist. I was later promoted to the technical director. And from that company, we also launched Medicanja, which is a medical cannabis company where I did the formulation and development of the different products that was developed under that. Earlier in my earlier years, I also was a lab analyst at Mona Institute of Applied Sciences, and I left Biotech R&D Institute / Medicanja and came to the SRC in 2017 as the divisional manager for product research and development, and was later promoted in 2021 to the executive director. So in all of that, and during all of that time, I was also building my company, Charah Cosmetics, which we're going to focus on since we're trying to speak about entrepreneurship and looking at an entrepreneur journey as a scientist and what that could potentially look like. So during all that time, I was also slowly growing and building my company. The base of my company and the strength of my company is in the products, the formulations that I develop, the quality of the products, that they are, one, affordable, effective, and practical, meaning it suit our demographic. One of the challenges that led me to even wanting to formulate the product is not just because I thought I had the intellect and I am bright and brilliant and I can do this, but the truth of the matter is I had dandruff for many, many years, and I used so many products. I used the sulfur product, which, once you start using that, you start having a bad odor because the sulfur had a horrible smell. I used the Head and Shoulder. I used all of them, and nothing worked. Really, and when I looked into it, the reason why is not that the products weren't good, is because how you needed to use the product did not work with our kind of hair. I had processed hair at the time, which you can't wash every day, and your lifestyle don't facilitate that either. And the nature of those products, when you read the labels, they tell you need to wash your hair every other day or at least 3 times a week for it to work to treat your dandruff and the issues. So those formulations, those products that were on the market did not suit our lifestyle based on how we manipulate our days. It didn't suit our hair type. It didn't suit, so it wasn't practical, and they were extremely expensive. Or, as I mentioned, in the case of the sulfur wash and the sulfur products, where those were not so expensive, but the odor that came along with it meant that you also couldn't socialize, you couldn't be in person space without having that awful, foul odor following you. So I decided that, I'm going to use the intellect and the knowledge that I'm gaining through my research work, learning about these natural products and their uses, to develop and formulate something that could potentially help to deal with the challenge I was having. So I started out with the desire to want to solve a personal problem. I did not start it out thinking that I was going to start a company. I did not start out with a brand name, a company name. I did not start out with saying, things rough and I'm tired of teaching. I'm tired of having to be hustling so much. I need to start a company so I can be financially stable. That was not the genesis. The genesis of it for me was, I can't deal with the dandruff no more. My scalp, the flake on my scalp, I can't wear black, being self-conscious and just, being all the issues and the stigma will come along with having dandruff. It's not that I was nasty. It's not that I was not hygienic. It was nothing like that. And funny enough, in looking at it, I found out that almost 50%, 1 in every 2 adolescent to adult, actually struggle or have some issue with dandruff or flaky scalp. So I wasn't alone. So while I was solving my issue, and I told you I started in 2010 in trying to formulate something, it wasn't until 6 years later that I finally, and I didn't even realize I had a breakthrough. To tell you the truth, I was sitting in the hairdresser's chair one Friday evening. She was washing my hair and doing her usual routine, and she's like, "You're using something different in your hair?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, you don't have the flakes that you normally have. Your scalp look nice and clean." I'm like, "What?" And that was when it dawned on me that all those multitude of formulations that I was making from 2010 coming through, that I finally got to one that worked. Luckily for me, being a chemist, being a scientist, I was making note of everything that all the different formulations that I had, and I did not cross different formulations. So when I finished with this formulation, I would then develop another one and started using that. So when I had the breakthrough, it was someone else that pointed it out to me. And that formulation was the first main product in our line of products, and that was our hair and scalp treatment oil. So the two slides that I ran over very quickly was just really speaking to what I already said, that I had a problem which I framed. And once I framed the problem and fully frame it, so the framing of the problem wasn't just that I had bad dandruff that I wanted to solve. It was also looking at what were the solutions available and what were the issues with the solutions, why they were not working for me and why they might not be working for many other persons just like me. And from coming out of that and trying to answer those questions is how I was able to formulate a product in a format that you could use regardless of your lifestyle. It didn't require washing. It was very lightweight, meaning you could use it daily, as with most dandruff treatment require, you need to use it daily. And this particular formulation, it had to be lightweight so that if you're using it daily, you won't have a heavy built-up. The aroma of it must be one that was satisfying so that when you use it, people won't scorn you. And we were able to achieve all of that in a simple formulation that was not just effective, but was all natural, and that was affordable, and that could fit into any lifestyle. If you're active at the gym, it's something you can use every day. If you have kinky, curly, tight hair like mine that you can't wash every week or daily, you could use it still without having heavy build-up. And that is how Charah Cosmetic was formed, with one issue, one problem that ballooned into an entire company that I'm extremely proud of today. Right now, we have over 20 unique products, with most of them being all natural, some because of what they are and what they're looking to address. They might not be all natural, but our company have a identity and one that we're extremely proud of. So you can access our products in different formats. And just to wrap up, to note that creating Charah Cosmetics and the products from Charah Cosmetics, it took first a particular frame of mind. I'm at certain mindset to say, I have a problem and I'm not going to be defeated by this problem. I'm going to try to solve it. I'm going to use what I have available to me to solve it. And that is where innovation comes from. If you realize most of the new products and services that we are now having, they are not so far-fetched. Some of them are so simple. When you think about even a bottle opener, that was an innovation that is relatively simple, that someone might have been struggling to open things before, that to say, what if I do it this way? So it doesn't have to be far-fetched. It doesn't have to be the next electric vehicle. It might not be what Tesla is doing. And if you think about the innovations that Tesla is doing, they are not unique. You have had electric vehicles for forever. Those little Barbie cars, those cars that kids used to drive in when they're 3 and 4 years old. The Tesla cars is just a bigger model of that. Is using those technologies that already existed and make it more available to more people and making it more useful. So when you think of the camera phone, it's not new. It's putting a phone and a camera together. These technology existed long ago, but they're now merging them into one device to make them more accessible to more people and more practical. So when you think about innovation, I don't want you to think about things that are far-fetched and beyond your reach. I want you to think about where you are, the issues you're facing in your daily life, and what small tweak you might be able to make to create something that is new, that persons find value in and willing to pay them dollars for. I want to introduce you to someone that I found, well, before I get there, this mantra is something that I live by, is something that I learned when I was in primary school. I don't know if you still, this is what we did when we did phonics and those kind of things. I don't know if you're still learning, and if you don't know this one, this is one that I would encourage you to learn. For me, I've been very fortunate with great mentors throughout my life. I would not have been able to make the strides and be where I am without the mentors. These are just three of my mentors. And for me, most of my mentors have been men. I've been very fortunate to have very great men in my life that has guided and supported my personal and professional development. But this particular poem, if we can call it that, heights by great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling upwards through the night. And that is something that I live by. And that is how most people describe me. I'm always hardworking. I'm always busy being busy. And I want to leave you with Michaela Holmer. I first came across this young girl in 2020 when I was very active in my business and looking to scale and grow my business. I used to watch Shark Tank. I don't know if you guys know about Shark Tank. This is where entrepreneurs go to billionaires and pitch their product and hope with the hopes that they will buy into it, give them funding capital to push their business to the next level. This little girl here, she started her lemonade stand like most American kids at 4 years old, but she did it a little bit different. She was stung by a bees, got interested in bees, started learning about bees, got fascinated by bees, and it just so turned out that her grandmother made a particular lemonade that used honey. So she put her fascination with bees and honey together with the lemonade and started a little lemonade stand at 4 years old. At 9 years old, she went to Shark Tank and they loved her product. And at 9 years old, she was able to launch a mega company, now value several million US dollars, sold in over 4,000 retail stores. And she's still a teenager today. And that started just by her being stung by a bees and having a little lemonade stand. So I want to introduce you guys to her to say that don't put any limits on yourselves. There are a lot of examples out there that you can follow, that you can be inspired by, and you can start at any point. You're not too young. You are not too disadvantaged. It doesn't matter where you are. You can get started and you can become a global success, much like Michaela. And for me, my last point to you, as a chemist, for me, it's all about balancing the equation. As much as I work hard, I participate in every aspect of life. I have a very thriving, successful business as well as a career. I am the head of a scientific institution in Jamaica, which some could consider to be somewhat of a pinnacle as a career as a scientist. I also have my family. I'm a mother of four. So while I was growing the business, making progress with a career, I was also very keen on ensuring that my life was fully balanced and the things that will bring you happiness outside of the career, outside of the successful business, but that love for family and that unity was also being taken care of. You do not, I want to make it very clear, you do not have to sacrifice your personal fulfillment for professional growth and fulfillment. You can do it all, but it takes commitment, it takes focus, and it takes that belief in yourself and knowing who you are to be able to do it all. It all can be done, and I can tell you, not to sound boastful, but it can be done without being overwhelming and without being stressful. As you can see, I'm a very light-hearted person. I'm very fun. I'm very outgoing, very fun. I am rarely ever stressed because I take things into perspective and try to ensure that each time I'm focused on what the main goal is. And for me, it's just to be fulfilled and happy. So last slide, you can find me on socials. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter. Well, I'm not so active on Twitter, but I do have a Twitter account, Instagram, and on LinkedIn. And look out for the book. It's coming the end of this year. I'm hoping to finish it. And my parting words to you as youngsters is, and I mentioned it throughout my conversation with you, I want you guys to be certain of who you are. Be sure in yourself. Being mindful in who you are, because at all times the world will try to tell you who to be, but you will only be content if you know yourself and be comfortable in being yourself. So with that, thank you.